Hi, in this video, I'm going to explain about roles of hormones during pregnancy and parturition. So the learning outcomes are students should be able to explain the roles of hormones during pregnancy, which involve three hormones: progesterone, estrogen, and human chorionic gonadotropin. And the second learning outcome is to explain the roles of hormones during parturition, or the process of giving birth, which involve progesterone, estrogen, oxytocin, and prostaglandin. This diagram shows the relationship between the organs or the cells with the secretion of the hormones. First, we can see that the trophoblasts form during after fertilization. The trophoblast cells of the blastocyst will secrete HCG, which then stimulate corpus luteum to secrete estrogen and progesterone. These two hormones, the estrogens and progesterones, helps in development or maintaining the structure of endometrium. And later on, the development of placenta will take over the function of corpus luteum to secrete estrogen and progesterone, which means in later pregnancy, the estrogen and progesterones will be released or will be secreted by the placenta. From this diagram, it shows the concentration of three hormones during pregnancy. The first hormone is HCG, which rise rapidly during the first trimester, the first 3 months of pregnancy, which is the first trimester. So the concentration of HCG increase secreted by the trophoblast. So HCG is released by trophoblasts, the cells in the blastocyst. So this secretion of HCG is used to detect the early pregnancy. So the increase of HCG, while the progesterone increase slightly and estrogen estrogen concentration is lower than the progesterone, but it is still being secreted by the corpus luteum to maintain the structure of the uterine lining. The endometrial changes after fertilization. When fertilization occurs, the estrogen maintain its concentration, increase before ovulation, but then decrease slightly, and during implantation, the progesterone hormone concentration increase, okay, more than estrogen itself, because progesterone is important to strengthen the endometrium so that the implantation should be successful and maintain the structure of the blastocyst in the endometrium. After implantation, the trophoblast cells of the blastocyst will secrete HCG. HCG will maintain the structure of the corpus luteum, so corpus luteum can continue to secrete estrogen and progesterone. So please remember, the corpus luteum is needed the structure of corpus luteum is needed to secrete the estrogen and progesterone. So the endometrium will continue to be thick and strong to hold the implantation of the blastocyst, the fetus. So the corpus luteum structure is maintained by the concentration of HCG. As HCG increase, the corpus luteum will be strong or maintained in the ovary. Without HCG, corpus luteum will disintegrate. Thus, progesterone level will drop and result in menstruation or loss of the embryo. So HCG stimulates corpus luteum to grow, maintain, and continue the secretion of estrogen and progesterone. Again, the maintaining of estrogen and progesterone secretion is to maintain the thickening of the endometrium for embryonic development. During the first trimester, progesterone level is more than estrogen level because high level of progesterone prevent the miscarriage because progesterone strengthen, increase the blood flow, the capillary blood is strong and allow the flowing of blood from the mother to the exchange of nutrients between mother and fetus. So it helps to maintain the pregnancy. And HCG level increases rapidly during the first trimester. By the end of first trimester, placenta has already formed. Placenta develop perfectly, and thus it will take over the function of corpus luteum. So placenta will continue to secrete estrogen and progesterone instead of corpus luteum. Beginning second trimester, the hormone level stabilizes as HCG secretion decline. So the HCG decline, this decline of HCG will cause the corpus luteum to degenerate, deteriorate. So corpus luteum will no longer secrete the estrogen and progesterone, but because placenta has already completely formed, so placenta will take over the production or the secretion of estrogen and progesterone. And still progesterone level is more than estrogen level. We want to prevent a higher increase of estrogen. We want to prevent estrogen becoming more the concentration of estrogen to be more than progesterone, because if estrogen is concentration is higher than progesterone, it will lead to miscarriage because estrogen induces the uterus contraction. Second trimester is between 4 to 6 months. The level of progesterone is high, so it will bring about rapid changes to the mother. For example, mucus in the cervix forms a plug that protects against infections, and then maternal part of the placenta grows. The mother's breast and uterus get larger, uterus can expand, so that the baby size can increase. Both ovulation and menstrual cycle will stop. The high levels of progesterone in the end will stop the ovulation and the menstrual cycle. So the progesterone functions is to maintain pregnancy, so to prevent premature birth, and inhibit secretion of prolactin and oxytocin. So secretion of prolactin and oxytocin, secretion of prolactin and oxytocin actually should occur at the end of pregnancy or during parturition. The third trimester is between 7 to 9 months. At the final week of pregnancy, the estrogen will reach its highest level. Okay, as estrogen reach its highest level, increasing more than the progesterone itself, so this increase of estrogen will stimulate the formation of oxytocin receptor on the uterus. Okay, again, the estrogen level reach highest level at the end of pregnancy, which will then stimulate the formation of receptors. These receptors will only act on oxytocin, which is called oxytocin receptors on the uterus. Okay, remember, uterus is the parts of the female that's holding the baby, and this is a very important structure that helps in parturition during the labor, giving birth. So, as estrogen level is the highest, the progesterone level will drop. So the drops of the progesterone stimulate the beginning of contraction that will lead to birth. Beginning of contraction, the first pain contraction that the mother feels before giving birth, that leads to the as the clue that the contraction or the labor is beginning. So let's try to fill in the blanks here. Human chorionic gonadotropin, the effect is to maintain the corpus luteum during the first trimester. So corpus luteum to maintain secretion of estrogen and progesterone. Progesterone, the source meaning the structure that secrete progesterone during the first trimester is the corpus luteum. While during the second trimester until the end of the trimester, it is secreted by placenta. Progesterone gives effect to stimulate and maintain the endometrium. Inhibit premature contraction ataupun uterus contraction. Inhibit uterus contraction. Estrogen is the same with progesterone. First trimester, during first trimester, it is secreted by corpus luteum. Okay, what do we feel here? Level during end of pregnancy. Highest level during end of pregnancy. From second trimester until end trimester, estrogen is being secreted by the placenta. So the effect of estrogen, highest level during end of pregnancy, it stimulates formation of oxytocin receptor on uterus. Okay, now we are going into parturition, the labor, giving birth, the giving birth part. At the final week of pregnancy, the estrogen reach its highest level. So the highest level of estrogen will stimulate the formation of oxytocin receptors on the uterus. And at the same time, progesterone level drops off and stimulate the beginning of contraction that will lead to birth. So at the end of the pregnancy, how can we feel the mother feels the time to give birth has come? First, because there is a contraction. So what leads the contraction to begin is the drop of the progesterone level. And at the same time, the uterus starts to form the receptor of the oxytocin, because oxytocin later on is very important to stimulate the process of parturition. Oxytocin released by the fetus and the mother's posterior pituitary gland. So it comes two ways, from inside of the baby and also from the mother itself. From the baby, it released by the fetus, and from the mother's part comes from the pituitary, posterior pituitary gland, PPG. So the release of oxytocin, it should be a high concentration because it comes from the fetus and also the mother itself. So this concentration, this oxytocin concentration will stimulate uterus contraction, which is a very powerful contraction on the smooth muscle of uterus. So the contraction of the uterus is very important to push the baby out of the uterus, the womb. Without the push in from inside, baby, the process of giving birth is hard to do because the baby will not come out if it is not being pushed from inside. So the push factor is from the uterus smooth muscle. So to be able to push and contract from inside, the oxytocin concentration needs to be high so that the push is very strong. Oxytocin also stimulates placenta to start secreting prostaglandins, which stimulate another contraction of the uterus. So the contraction of the uterus triple up. Just now it is double up because the oxytocin comes from the fetus and also from the mother, and then added up by prostaglandins secretion. So the physical and emotional stress of the mother will stimulate further release of oxytocin and prostaglandin. So the pain comes from the contraction, causes the mother to feel stress physically because of the pain, and also emotionally because of the unbearable pain. So this will further release oxytocin and prostaglandin, which is called as positive feedback mechanism. Both oxytocin and prostaglandin together induce and regulates contractions of the uterus. That's why there is a gap between the pain and the next pain. So the period of the gap shorten each time the wave of the secretion comes. Jadi dia mula-mula jarak, kemudian dia makin dekat. So as the gap between the pain shorten, jadi dia punya that is an indication that the labor is at almost maknanya dah nak mula betul-betul baby really dah nak keluar. Okay, makin rapat jarak tu, makin indikator, makin memberitahu bahawa baby betul-betul dah nak keluar. Action of oxytocin and prostaglandins forms a positive feedback loop. Because the secretion of the hormones causes an intensified pain and further increase the secretion of the hormones, and the pain intensify, the secretion of the hormone also increase. So the uterine contraction stimulates secretion of more oxytocin and prostaglandin, which will further stimulate contractions. Okay, progesterone decrease stimulate the beginning of contraction in uterus. Okay, and then estrogen induce oxytocin receptors on the uterus, which will stimulate oxytocin, the secretion from fetus and the mother itself. Oxytocin stimulate powerful contraction, which stimulate placenta to secrete prostaglandin. Okay, the relationship between oxytocin and prostaglandin is when contraction starts to occur, causes the placenta to secrete prostaglandin, and then further increase because of the stress, further increase the oxytocin and the prostaglandin. So it starts with the estrogen concentration increase. Okay, when estrogen concentration increase the highest level, then the receptor of the oxytocin starts to form. Without this receptor, the oxytocin will not give any effect. Okay, any effect on the uterus. Jadi dia punya sakit tu mungkin sikit je sebab the oxytocin is there but the receptor is not there. So nothing can nothing will be triggered by the presence of the oxytocin. So estrogen needs to highest level to induce formation of oxytocin receptor on the uterus. Because uterus, even if baby produces the oxytocin, but if the uterus cannot detect the presence of the oxytocin, then the uterus will not contract. So the push factor from inside will not is not there. The labor will not occur. HCG is only produced during early stage of pregnancy. What possibility occur when these hormones are not secreted during this stage? So it is related to what is the purpose of HCG, or what is the effect of HCG. The effect of HCG is to maintain the secretion, the structure of corpus luteum. Okay, HCG, corpus luteum. Corpus luteum secrete estrogen and progesterone. Without these two hormones, the endometrium will not maintain. So if there is no when hormones are not secreted, when there is no HCG, the corpus luteum structure will not maintain, will deteriorate. Thus, estrogen and progesterone will not be secreted. The endometrium will shed and causes menstruation. Okay, so that's all from me for about pregnancy and parturition.